Hey guys, welcome back to the Bad Luck Club. I wanted to talk to you about a game that I just recently learned about when I was at CharCon in West Virginia this summer. It is called CabrioLe, and it is a game about furniture making in 18th century London. I first saw this out on the table and was immediately intrigued by it because when I see a beige game with a weird theme, I need to know everything about it. Not that the theme is necessarily that weird, but it's pretty unique for a board game, and I love to see somebody trying to do something different. This is the first game from Meride Games, and it is co-designed by Doug Bass and Lamberto Azzariti, and it is a worker placement game that takes place over 6 rounds. In these 6 rounds, there are 4 phases in which you will be acquiring different project cards. You'll be hiring and training your different workers to work on these projects, and you will be acquiring different materials to build the furniture. Players will take turns in a clockwise order, placing their meeples out onto the board to select the actions that they'll be taking during the resolution phase. The different action spots that you can go to are the different action card queues, which is going to change depending on the player count, going from 3 to 4 different rows that you can choose from. When you place your workers in a project queue, depending on the order is going to be how you are going to be drafting cards from there during the resolution phase. If you're the first person to place one of your workers there, then you're going to have first access to the projects that are available in that row. The project rows contain different types of cards, such as the furniture cards, of which there are tables, chests, and chairs. There are also worker cards there, which allow you to hire or upgrade a worker for free. And there's also different ways to get either money or materials needed to complete these projects. If all 4 project queues are available, once meeples are placed on 3 of them, immediately an off-limits token will be placed on the 4th one. The only way that this row will be able to be accessed is if you go to the extra project queue. If you go there, you will have to pay to take cards, whereas if you go to the regular project queue, the cards are free. So going to the extra projects will cost you either 2 coins to take 1 card or 5 coins to take 2 cards with a maximum of 2 cards. If you're playing in a higher player count game, you cannot go in both of the spaces for the extra projects. And I have found that at a higher player count, this action gets used a lot more than in a 2-player count game. The next action space that you can go to is the guild hall queue. This is where you're going to be hiring and training your workers that you have. Everyone starts the game with 2 different workers, of which there are a carver, a joiner, a turner, and an upholder. Here you'll be able to hire the other 2 workers that you didn't start the game with, or you'll be able to train any of your workers from an apprentice to a journeyman to a master. The higher level that they are, the more points you will score at the end of the game, and then it'll also allow you to create more projects or items of furniture at the end of every round. The final queue where you can place workers is the market queue. This is where you're going to be buying your goods that you need to complete the project cards and build the furniture, which is the meat of the game. The different items that you can buy are oak, walnut, silk, and mahogany. However, in a 2-player game, there will not be any oak in the game. So this game is all about time management, resource management, and completing projects. You can have up to 6 incomplete projects at a time that you'll need to complete by the end of the game. Every incomplete project that you have at the end of the game is worth -5 points, so making sure that you're not taking more than you can complete is very imperative. I haven't seen anyone get to that point, but it's definitely easy to bite off more than you can chew, especially considering the cost of the goods throughout the game. The game does not reward you for buying a ton of material at once. It wants you to keep going back to those spaces. So the more material you buy in one turn, the more expensive it's going to be versus just buying 1 piece of mahogany. The other important thing to note is making sure you are aware of what level all of your employees are. If you only have an apprentice level, they can only complete 1 item of furniture at the end of every round. The more you upgrade your workers that you have, the more items of furniture they can complete at once. One of my favorite parts of the game is the furniture cards that you're working to build. Once you complete them and are selling them off to the customer, you can do 2 different things with them. You can either take the victory points that the cards are worth, or you can trade them in for money instead. I think this is super interesting. In the beginning of the game, you need money. Money is pretty tight and resources are super expensive. So turning those projects in for money is imperative. And a thing that I have been doing in the game is if I complete 2 of them, the one that is worth more coins, I will turn in for money, and the other one I'll just take the victory points for. Early in the game, you don't need the victory points as much, but you definitely need that money. Like I said, these resources are expensive, and you can only buy 4 of them at a time, depending on which one you're going to. There are ways to get them for free from the project queue, but other than that, like, it is a delicate balance of making sure you're getting the resources that you need, that you're not overspending, and that you're just getting the amount that you need, because I've definitely been in a situation where I thought I was going to be able to complete a project, but then I didn't have enough money to buy mahogany, and I just get stuck and have to wait until the next round. And you can always choose to forego an action for 2 coins, but in this game, 2 coins is not a ton of money. So making sure that you're getting those projects completed quickly, taking the money in the beginning of the game, and then really going for victory points towards the end of the game. That has been the strategy that I have been going for personally. For every complete vignette that you have, you're going to score 10 victory points at the end of the game. So making sure that you have a complete set of a table, a chest, and a chair is going to really help you score victory points at the end of the game. However, that is going to require that you have all different material types. So going to all of those different action spots and buying those goods is going to be costly throughout the game, versus if you're working on one furniture type, you might be able to complete more projects because you're getting a ton of like oak, or you're getting a ton of walnut, and you can complete the same type of furniture over and over. You're not going to score points for the partial or full vignette at the end of the game. Halfway through the game, at the start of the 4th round, new cards are introduced. So the original deck will still be in the game if it's out on the project queue, but at this point, deck B will be introduced, where the new furniture projects are going to require more highly trained workers. So the journeymen and the masters of their skill. This is a nice way to like introduce more cards, and so you're not stuck at the beginning of the game with a bunch of project cards that require higher level workers. So it will slowly start to implement them, and at that point these cards are also going to pay out more money and more victory points to you as well. At the end of the 6 rounds, you'll go through, you will count up all of the victory points that you already scored throughout the game from the cards, whether you took the money or the victory points for completing projects. At that point, you'll look to see if you've completed any partial or full vignettes. A partial vignette would be 2 unique types of furniture, such as a chair and a table, or a table and a chest, and a full vignette would be the set of 3 furniture. At the end of the game, you'll turn your resources into cash, and every $5 that you have is worth 1 victory point. You will also look to see the level of all of the workers that you have. Any apprentices are not going to be worth victory points. However, 1, 2, 3, or 4 journeymen are worth different victory points depending on how many you have, and depending on how many masters that you have are also going to change the value of victory points that they're worth, scaling up roughly 5 points for each additional worker that you have trained all the way to the highest level. I have played this game at all player counts. They are working on a solo option for this, which should be available once this game is completed on Kickstarter. The solo mode is not available now, so I did not get to play that. However, I have played this at 2, 3, and 4 player counts. I do think that when you're playing it at a 2-player game, it definitely feels a little less cutthroat. I've noticed that the section that always goes the quickest is the guild hall for upgrading, or not upgrading, but hiring and training your workers. This spot will always go super fast, so making sure that you get there is important. I've definitely played games where a person is like, I'll wait until next turn to take it, and the other person will absolutely always take the second available spot and block you out of taking that action. It can be challenging, and that is definitely like one of the biggest ways to score points pretty easily, and also making sure that you can complete multiple projects around. In higher player count games, such as like a 4-player count game, I've noticed that the game becomes a lot more cutthroat at that point. People are gunning more for the project cards. That is when I said that the extra project spot becomes really imperative, and I've seen people grab some great cards from there. More cards are coming out into the queue, so like the chances of good cards being spread out more is a lot higher. So it makes that off-limits row seem a lot more attractive when you have that many more cards that are out on the table to choose from. At that point, it also gets a little nerve-wracking when you're going to the market, because you only have the option to buy 1, 2, 3, or 4 of each material. And if someone goes before you and opts to buy 2, you might be stuck only being able to buy 1 piece of oak, which is not enough to complete the item of furniture that you wanted, and you might not be able to afford to buy 3 pieces of oak. So you're gonna have to wait until the next round to buy that other piece of oak that you need to complete your furniture. So it definitely gets a bit tighter at that player count, I've found. At that point, it's more of your game preference of if you like a more casual, light, friendly feeling game, or if you want something that is more competitive and you are gunning for a spot and like genuinely disappointed if somebody gets there before you. This is a great introductory game for people who are just learning about worker placement, who are learning about like action selection. Since you're going and putting your meeple in different spaces, you might be first to go in that action, you might be last to go in that action. And you know, it's a real like lesson in how to work with what you end up with and not to fully rely on what you are going in thinking that you're going to be able to draft, because somebody might grab that card before you and you are going to have to pivot partway through. It does take up a decent amount of space. I did play it at a coffee shop and it did take up like a full table, which is fine. But if you're trying to operate on like a smaller scale, I wouldn't recommend taking it necessarily to like that type of environment. It is not necessarily a table hog, but it does take up a fair amount of space, especially with the individual player boards and having the project queue laid out. If you're looking for a game that is a unique theme, something that you can pull out and play over the holidays, you can play it with friends, you can play it with family, something that you can, you know, have a conversation over and just like hang out and have an easygoing game night, this is definitely the game for you. I love the theme of it. I think that the furniture making is super cute and clever. I feel like it's something unique that you don't see every day in, you know, a world full of like space themed games, dinosaur themed games, like whatever. There's so many like popular themes for games these days. Seeing something like this is unique and I love to see that. The artwork is great. I love the colors of it. Again, I'm a huge beige fan, so I don't know, that just might be me. It's really straightforward. It's easy to learn. It's easy to table. And with the amount of games coming out that are super heavy, super complex, it's really nice to have something that's just like a medium weight game that you can table and not have it be an ordeal to learn the rule book to teach everyone at the table the game. So this is definitely like a solid game for just getting it out and getting something played and, you know, feeling like you're playing a nice solid game in that time. Cool. Well, thank you for listening and hanging out with me. If you have any questions about Cabriole or would like to know any more, please let me know in the comments. I'm going to put the link to the Kickstarter in the caption below, as well as some more information about the game and where to find Merida games. And until next time, stay classy, San Diego.